Okay, welcome to our week 2 of our social media workshops. We are talking about lighting and design. My name is Amanda Beach, for those of you that don't know me, and I have been learning about taking photos for the last 5 years. I started my Instagram account about 5 or 6 years ago, and I've learned a ton about how to take good photos and aesthetic and all of that. I really believe that an Instagram account can be a beautiful portfolio that represents who you are, a snapshot of your business, a snapshot of your life that you can share with people, something that is enhancing your business. I have used Instagram to connect with people all over the world, and I think that's one of the coolest things about Instagram is you just never know who is going to see your content. So we want to make sure that our content is beautiful and it's eye-catching. So that's why I decided to do these workshops, because I have people messaging me quite often asking me, how do I take my pictures and how do I come up with ideas? And so these are some gifts that I've been given by God, and I believe that He has given them to me for me to use to bless others. So that's why I'm doing these workshops, and I hope that you are blessed by them. Today's workshop is going to be talking about lighting and design, and this is a really fun part of taking pictures, but it can also be a struggle in some different ways. So let me just jump right in. So good lighting is a necessary element for taking good photos. Lighting captures details, color, and gives you flexibility in editing. If you have good lighting in your photos, it can help you with your editing process. If your lighting isn't that great, sometimes your images can be pixelated or blurry or just not clean and crisp and sharp. So you want to have good lighting. So lighting is important because it affects your photography. So we know, those of you that have tried to take pictures of our oil bottles, that sometimes they can be hard to photograph because our lighting isn't quite right. Lighting highlights the details of your product. If you have good lighting, it enhances clear backgrounds. So it can add very crisp, clean lines. It also sets the mood. So bright lighting has like this fresh feel, whereas like maybe darker lighting or warmer lighting might have a more romantic or more mysterious kind of feel. So lighting really affects the consumer, the people who are consuming your content, and it makes them feel a certain way. It gives them an impression, and it makes marketing easier. If your photos have good lighting, have good detail, if you're enhancing your product by being aware of your lighting, then it's going to help it. It's going to make it easier for you to help someone else understand the value of your product. So it's going to make your marketing a lot easier if you are making sure your lighting is uh, is good. Okay, so there's a couple of types of lighting. Oh, there's two. There's natural lighting, which is lighting from windows. And actually, in this room in my house, this is our main source of light, is these big windows here. So natural light has a lot of benefits, the largest being availability and convenience. So if you have a window in your home that gets a lot of good lighting, that is going to be really helpful for you. You don't have to spend money on gear to achieve well-lit photos. Many photographers opt to use natural light instead of artificial light when they're hoping to achieve a more organic and sincere looking aesthetic in their images. Some artists feel that natural lighting is more appropriate when you're capturing an intimate and genuine vibe. So you can see these two photos use natural lighting. They're very fresh, they're very clean, they're very bright, and it's all used. The use of that lighting makes you feel that way when you see these pictures. The downside to natural lighting is that it's unpredictable and it's out of your control. I cannot tell you how many times I've needed to take photos and it happens to be a cloudy day, or I waited too long and now it's 5 o'clock in the evening and I've lost all my good lighting. So the weather changes daily depending on where you live and even what time of day. You may or may not have access to this lighting. You may not have a place in your house that has good lighting. So that is the struggle with natural lighting, is availability, if it's something that's even an option for you. Um, and timing. Maybe if you work during the day and you're only at home during a certain time of day, then you might not have that natural lighting that's available during the daytime hours. or you might not be able to take pictures at work, or you might not want to. So natural lighting is a wonderful thing to have, but it's not necessary. You can definitely achieve some of the same effects with artificial light. When you're working with artificial light, the pros to that are you have a lot more control over your composition. You don't have to plan according to the weather or time of day when you're using artificial light sources, because you have the ability to make adjustments as you're shooting. The downside to artificial lighting is you might need some equipment. I know that the artificial lighting that I get from my lamps in my house is not going to be adequate for shooting the kinds of photos that I want to get. It can be expensive and it might require more editing to get the look of the photo that you want and to have consistency with your work that you're doing. But there are a lot of options for artificial light. So I'm going to talk to you about how you can get consistency with your artificial light and with your natural light so that you have the same vibe throughout your whole account on Instagram. Okay. Okay, another tricky part of photography is shadows and glare. So shadows can add drama. Sometimes shadows can really enhance a photo, like you see there with the olive oil. They allow the shadow to be in that picture, and it does add kind of a emphasis to those products, but they can also detract from the image and create a darker composition if not used correctly. Shadows can obscure a beautiful product and make the product photography look unprofessional. So you have to decide how you will use shadows in your photos and then be consistent throughout your brand. So that's really the most important thing. If you want to have shadows in your compositions, then it needs to be similar throughout all of your work. If you don't want to have shadows, then make sure that you're using something to help keep the shadows out. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Glare is another challenge when taking product photos, especially for us because we're taking pictures of glass oil bottles, right? And some of our oil bottles have shiny labels, and that can be a challenge. It's caused when a source of light hits a reflective surface directly. This can be seen on anything from a pair of glasses, if you're capturing portraits, to reflections on water. You can reduce glare by diffusing the light over a wide surface so it doesn't directly contact the product. And I'm going to show you how to do that. With our essential oil bottles, they are already dark. They're dark amber glass, which I'm so glad that they are, because it protects our essential oils from oxidation. But I feel like we don't need extra shadows in our photos because the darkness of the bottle needs to be clear, like that brown color. We don't want to make the brown look kind of like a smudge or anything. We want that brown bottle to be really beautiful. So I have chosen to reduce shadows as much as possible in my content. Props and decor. So this has to do with staging. When we are taking a photo, we need to think of what else is in the photo. Some people use nothing else. Some people use just the oil bottles, which is totally fine. But adding some design elements can help your image tell a story. You can use objects that do not detract from the product, but instead enhance its value. Consider your color scheme. Take note of decor that matches your own style and personality. Also take into consideration size and shape. And you can also take into consideration what's trendy. What is trendy right now? So as you can see in this photo, and this is one of mine, that I used those beads there with the tassels. Those are very trendy right now. I had some dried leaves that I used in that photo, and I also had this aroma pod that just kind of add an earthiness to this photo. So as someone comes across this photo, it's helping kind of tell the story. That's very earthy, natural, like there's the colors aren't really bright and intense except for the word hyssop right there on the bottle. So I love I love working with colors to make them flow really well, but it's definitely something to consider if you're adding other colors or shapes or objects into your photo to make sure that they're balancing each other. So there's nothing super large in this photo because my bottle of hyssop is very small, right? So I didn't want to use something big that's going to overpower the focus of my photo. Props are so important because they bring context to an item. They show the product's intended use. Sometimes people use containers of bath salts or roller bottles, things like that. They highlight key features, provide other important visual messages about the product. Never use props with logos that may detract from the product being featured. So I try not to have other company logos or logos on other branding things when I'm doing oil bottles, because I want the name on the bottle and the doTERRA brand to be the focus of my photos. Okay, staging. Okay, so let's talk about staging. Like if you're taking a picture, what else is going on in that photo? So scale, the whole point is to showcase our product. So we want to make sure that things aren't overpowering the main point of our photo. It's easy to get carried away with props and other elements that go into creating a pleasing image, but these should always support the product, not take over the shot or become the focal point. Scale is extremely important in any kind of still life photography. Objects have a tendency to look much larger on the camera. As you can see, these are oil bottles, they're small, but as you can see in these pictures here, the things behind them are still staging, and some of them are large, like these diffusers, but I've chosen to blur, not the diffusers, the vases there on the bottom right-hand side. I've chosen to blur some of the products that are in the background, and the oil bottles are still the darkest thing in that picture, and they are front and center, so they're still drawing the eye to the center of that photo. Everything else, when I'm using other props or things in the background, I've blurred them out so that the focus is still on the product that I want people to pay attention to. Scale is choosing objects that work with each other and the product in terms of how big they appear next to each other and to the camera. If they are too big or look too big, they will dwarf the product and detract the eye, and therefore the attention away from the product. Most likely, any props you use should be on the small side. Background. The background you choose is just as important as the props. It should work with the product and carry the same aesthetic and message. So all these pictures you're seeing in this presentation are mine that I've done, and I've chosen a very simple, plain background for most of my photos. Some people prefer a lot more color. Some people prefer a lot more texture. So you choose what you feel like best fits your personality, your aesthetic, and your vision for what you want to have in your space. Colored poster board, craft paper, wood panels, pieces of marble, fabric, or even wallpaper can be used for the background. Simple often works best. Something with a neutral color and perhaps a bit of texture is ideal. Plain white is an option as well. And I used plain white backgrounds for a very, very long time. I only recently, well, probably in the last couple of years, started using more texture, more different shades of gray in the background of my photos. As you can see there, the bottom left-hand side has a wood grain background that is actually laminate, like contact paper that you would just stick onto something, and I'll show you that in just a second. And then the top right-hand picture is on a Lazy Susan that I purchased, and it's wooden, and I really liked how it goes with my color scheme, and I felt like the white didn't overpower the white of the spray bottle. So sometimes that's something to consider if you're using plain white, is that if you're using props, sometimes they're kind of washed out by the white background. Or if you have something white that you want to show up, it's going to disappear if you're using a white background. So that's honestly why I switched to gray, so that I could use white things on that background and they would still show up. Okay, the most difficult aspect of styling a product is creating balance while showcasing the product. You should consider props and other elements, even color, supporting elements that do not detract from the product itself. When it comes to composition, certain compositional tools can help you place your product. The rule of thirds, for example, states that the human eye is naturally drawn to the area that is about 2/3 from the bottom of the photograph. So imagine taking the photo, or imagine the photo you're taking broken down into thirds, horizontally and vertically. So you're kind of looking at the square, like if you could just break down your picture into the square in the very center, that's usually what the eye is going to get drawn to. There's a grid here that I found, and it has these circles around the intersection. And those circles are also really good focal points for photos. So you don't necessarily have to have all of your photos like centered on your bottles or your product. You can have them slightly off center, but just consider not having them all the way off to one side or to the top or to the bottom. You want to have them generally in that central area. Another easy compositional tip is to place the products or other important elements along diagonal lines. Diagonal lines are a simple and dynamic way to bring life and energy into a composition. Diagonal lines act as leading lines to draw the viewer's eye into the picture. They create a path for the viewer to follow through the photograph, leading them to the subject. Diagonal lines also suggest perspective and give the image more depth. So as you can see in that photo there are some diagonal lines that I use. It's a tray that I have, that the lines really frame those oil bottles. So when someone comes to this picture, they are looking at what's in the middle of those diagonal lines. So I am telling the person observing my work, I'm telling them where to look basically in that picture by using those diagonal lines. Lighting tools. So a light diffuser, a lot of us know what essential oil diffusers are. These are light diffusers. And this has been one of the best things that I've used when it comes to taking photos. It's a transparent panel that can help reduce glare and also lighten shadows on your product. These can be used with both natural and artificial light. Ring lights are a good way to add lighting to your product. They range in size. Some have a white warm balance option, so you can get exactly the same lighting every single time. And if you're using one of these two things, you're in more control of your light. I've had people ask me about light boxes, and I personally haven't used a light box with my photography because I need more space. Some of the photos that I take have 20, 30 oil bottles in a shape, or they have them all spread out, or something like that. So I need more space to work with. So I use a wider space than I would get in a light box. So I personally have not used a light box. I also prefer to have more control over my lighting than I feel like you get with a light box. Sometimes the light is too intense for what we are taking photos of. And so I like to be able to have the right amount of light, and I like to be able to be in control of that. Okay, here's some tips and tricks. I am going to switch cameras to my phone for just a second because I want to show you guys my kind of my setup here and some additional tips and tricks for you. So I'm gonna stop my video over here, and I am gonna hope that my video over here on my phone works. So can you guys see me? Let me know if you can see me. Give me like a thumbs up. Okay, awesome. And I hope that, okay, can you still see me? Let me know if you can still see me. Yes, okay, perfect. Okay, so this is my space, you guys. This is where it all happens. I have these wonderful windows that let in a lot of really good light, and I take most of my photos right here at this desk that I was just sitting at. I have a white desk. As you can see, I've kind of loaded it up with some props that I wanted to show you, kind of give you an idea of some things that I've gathered over the years. I try to use props that are very neutral. So artificial flowers that are white. These are artificial flowers that are kind of have some browns. These are the beads that you saw in that photo. I like neutral fabrics. Also, these can add a lot of character and depth to your image without taking away from what you're photographing. And then things like this, natural kinds of bowls, and then my tray that I took a picture in that you guys saw just a minute ago. So I find these things at Hobby Lobby, at Michael's. If you have any like Kirkland's or stores like that that have decor, then I just kind of, every time I'm in there, I kind of just look around and see what they have, and if it's something that I can incorporate into what I already have going with my aesthetic. So that's something to keep in mind, is when you are looking for props, make sure they match what you already have decided about your aesthetic. So that's why I did the branding and aesthetic workshop first, because you need to have a plan before you walk through Hobby Lobby. Yes, TJ Maxx and Marshalls, absolutely. You need to have a plan before you walk through those stores, or else all kinds of things are going to jump into your cart. You need to make sure that you are getting things that you can use over and over and over again. So I have probably about 10 to 15 things that I tend to just rotate through. I will throw this in a photo today, I'll throw that in a photo tomorrow. I like a lot of kind of the farmhouse wooden type decor things. And so I'll switch that up every so often. So when you're looking for decorative pieces to add your photos, think about what you already have decided to be as your or what your vision is for your account and your theme, and then buy things that connect with that that vision. Okay. Here's a couple other things that I've gotten. I found this on Amazon. This is just a little diffuser that I thought looked really cute in the fall, and I was using this in a few of my fall photos. This is something that I don't actually feature in my photos. It's something I put like in the back and to the side. But what that does is it adds depth and it adds more personality to my photos. So little things like this, and it's white because it matches the color scheme and the palette that I have for my photographs. I have so many of little caddies and things. I have probably like 3 or 4 different kinds of caddies. You can see one there on my desk over there that's white. This is one that I got on Amazon. But having things like this can really enhance your photo as well. This is something that would just be in the background, but people ask questions about these a lot. And what you want is people to engage with your photos. So if you have something like a stand or something that you're keeping your oils in that's really cute, put those in your photos as well, because people like to see that kind of thing. They want to see where you're keeping your oils. It's going to inspire them to keep their oils out where they can see them and use them. This is a light diffuser. This is something I got on Amazon. As you can see my arm, you can't really see my arm through here. Okay, this is exactly what it does. It makes the shadows less intense. So when I put this between my light source and my bottles, and this takes away the glare, and you can use this with natural lighting or artificial lighting. You just make sure this is between wherever your light source is and your bottles, and it's going to reduce a lot of those shadows. They actually have a clip. If you're by yourself or trying to take photos by yourself, sometimes it can be hard to hold your screen and arrange your bottles or take your photo at the same time. They actually have a clip on Amazon that can grab this and hold it for you. So if you look up like light diffuser clip stand, then you'd be able to find a clip that can hold your light diffuser in place. And it's basically like an extra set of hands. I've had my kids hold my diffuser before because I needed extra hands. Okay, so as far as my like different backgrounds go, this right here is a piece of poster board that I painted. I found a color that I loved, and I bought a sample size of that paint color, and I painted this poster board that color, and I used this poster board in 99% of my photos because I want this color to really run through all my photos and make everything super cohesive. So if you have kind of a color scheme or a palette that you have in mind, think about having one unifying color throughout your entire account, because that will really create, it'll really just create synergy with all of your photos to have one color. So I love this color, and I've even used this behind me when I've taken a photo of myself. I'll put this behind me so that even my selfie pictures have the same color in them as my oil bottle photos. This is the paper I've used with my wood grain. This is that contact paper, and contact paper comes in all kinds of different designs. They have wood, they have marble, they have all kinds of different patterns. And if you have a color scheme that you love, find a contact paper that enhances that, or at least flows with that color scheme, because that's again just another option of varying your background while still keeping it unified. And then plain white. This is something we actually have. We used this for Father's Day last year. But just plain white. I put this down on the floor sometimes, and I'll put the poster board right up behind it, like this. And that is how I take pictures. I just put the product there on the white poster board, and this is the background. And then there you go. You don't have to have anything like super fancy. You don't have a super fancy setup to take good photos. Sometimes I'll even just put my poster board here on behind my desk and put the bottles there on my desk, and it changes the whole background of my photo. Also, this is a tiny little ring light that I've gotten. Ring lights come in all sizes. I actually have a ring light around my phone right now that is about this big. And that's really good because it brightens up a large area. But this could also work. You don't have to have something really big. This has it just looks like this. You can get this on Amazon. It has a clip that clips onto a table. It has a USB plug here that you could plug into a computer or just a wall socket. It has a place to hold your phone here. And this actually changes from warm light to cool light. So you can choose exactly what setting you want your lighting to be on with this ring light. So this is going to add some lighting to your space. Maybe if you are taking photos at your house at a desk, you can just clip this on the edge of your desk and you have your lighting, put your light diffuser right in front of it. So it's not direct light and you can still take beautiful, clear photos. One more thing that I wanted to show you guys. This is like my absolute favorite trick for taking oil bottle photos, and that is sticky tack. You guys, oil bottles roll around constantly and it drives me crazy. So I got sticky tack. I used to be a teacher, and the sticky tack just goes on the back of your oil bottle and you stick that oil bottle into place and it doesn't go anywhere. It's amazing. The other thing I like using sticky tack for is sometimes when you're lighting, like certain oil bottles, the lighting goes right through the oil bottle and you can't see the name of the label, especially if the essential oil in the bottle is clear. So you get your sticky tack and you just spread it out on the back of your oil bottle. So it covers up where the light would be going through and you can't even tell. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so like rosemary. Rosemary is kind of see-through-ish, okay? So you can see how rosemary is kind of see-through-ish there. But if I put my sticky tack here on this side and I just kind of spread it out like this on the back of the bottle, now, I know there's still a glare, but now the rosemary is going to be darker because the light isn't passing through the sticky tack. It's stopping at the sticky tack and making the name stand out a little more clearly. I do this for rosemary. I do it for eucalyptus. I've done this for frankincense and rose. Sometimes those oil bottle names are harder to see. And then you just take up your sticky tack when you're done. If you can remember, sometimes I'll find oil bottles with sticky tack still on them. So those are just a few extra tips I wanted to share with you. And sticky tack you can get like at any teacher supply store or Amazon. Okay, I'm going to switch back to the computer really quick. Hopefully this works. Okay, can you guys see me? We're good? Okay. Just finishing up our slideshow over here. Maybe, okay. Okay, get to work. First, I need you to decide where and when you're going to take your photos. What area in your house makes the most sense? Are you going to take them in the morning, in the evening? What time do you have to take your photos? Will you choose natural or artificial lighting? Look for props that can be used repeatedly to add style and personality to your photos. And then practice, 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 practice. Have some fun like rearranging your items, taking some photos. I probably take 10 to 15 photos each time I set something up. I'll take 10 to 15 photos and I'll scroll through and see which ones I like. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And you'll eventually have an eye for seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, making sure your colors go together, and making sure your props aren't, they don't look weird in your photos. Sometimes I've taken pictures and I just thought to myself, I just don't like that. And I will totally scrap it and I'll go a different direction. So don't be afraid to have fun with this. Think about your personality and what you want people to experience when they come to your space on social media. Like I said before, this is a great way to introduce people to who you are, what your passion is, things that you love, your personality, and this is all working together to help people see who you are and get connected to who you are and want to be part of your community. Okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and stop my sharing and stop the recording now.